I like to suck the mic.
You do. It's if I'm talking at this level and you're talking at that level, we're pretty good. You're much louder when you have fun.
Wow.
Where's my coffee?
Right here.
There's my coffee. I needed that right now.
Get your earballs ready. Welcome to the Greg and Tim Show podcast. Take time to sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Here are your hosts, Greg and Tim.
Are you ready?
Yes, I need more crank.
You need more crank?
Yeah.
Like the drug?
Yeah.
Did you have some already?
I was...
Because if in order for you to use the word I need more, must means that you had crank.
I'll never be the same after watching Wolf of Wall
the
Street.
Moment. Wolf of Wall Street. You love that movie.
I don't know if I loved it, but it was like, oh my gosh.
If we were doing a live, this is how the live would start out before anybody joined in.
Right.
And the thing is, it would continue like this because nobody would join in.
I just can't believe people live like that.
Live like what? Like on drugs?
Well, like to function on an every, like typically people will function normally and like they get like a good amount of sleep.
Yeah.
And then they'll eat the proper things.
Eat decent.
None of the leafy greens, but lots of meats and stuff. Yeah. And then they do all these things, have their vitamins, they operate properly. But no, not these Wolf of Wall Street guys. All of these things just are crazy. But anyway.
The Wolf of Wall Street, the whole drugs, and don't eat your leafy greens.
I was reading an interview with Jordan, and he said, yeah, it was all true. Actually, they kind of downplayed it. What? That's insane.
Welcome back to the Greg and Tim Show. It's me, Greg, with my buddy Tim, back for another episode of a regular old podcast. Our last one.
It's not a regular old podcast because
it's a regular new podcast.
It's our last podcast before some exciting things happen while we're gone.
Yeah, while we're gone.
Is one of the most exciting things. We're gone, but
we're going to be gone. Yeah, that's exciting.
But no,
we don't have to deal with each other for a couple weeks. 3 weeks?
3, 4 actually. I think.
Yeah, I think it's a lot total. Of weeks.
I'm going away on my cruise.
Yeah,
and you're going away to Florida. So
Florida, land of opportunity.
But it's not. But we have some exciting interviews that we've done in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah,
done these interviews. And you've been feverishly editing them.
Feverishly?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. I edited them, and then I left them sitting there forever, and I finally almost finished them.
No, you've done a lot of work, and we started early enough that we didn't have to
feverishly do it.
And do it. But I'm so excited about them.
You just watched a couple to proofread them, proof watch them.
Yeah.
There's a few
proof listen to them.
There's a proof listen. There's a few bleeps in them. Yeah. Should we explain the bleeps? Or we'll have to bleep out the bleeps, so we can't really explain them.
When anyone says anything that is either
the thing that we don't talk about, or
language swears that are above crap.
Crap, yeah, crap stays in there.
Like crap is kind of
the pinnacle,
the under the line. That's
top,
the one that's under the line.
The top of the summit. That's how far we go.
Yeah, and then just anything over crap. Because somehow crap is better than.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, I proved my point because that got bleeped. Right? Yeah. I had a funny story about that actually because I used to teach at a school, and I won't say which school.
No, because we want to keep the anonymity.
But they
of
had
the school.
They had
the school's anonymity is important.
They had a discipline policy where you got something that was called, I won't say what the word is either, but some form of discipline.
Soap in the mouth.
No, there's
strap. Did they get the strap?
It was a point system.
Oh, that's lame.
And swearing.
I used to get hit by a ruler.
So crap was 0. I learned that crap was 0 in the points again, and the one above it was 2.
Yeah.
So
the one that you bleeped out earlier.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that.
What happens?
Exactly the same thing.
So is it more points? Like, what happens when you get more points? Do you win?
No.
Or do you lose?
If you get above a certain amount of negative points, you'd have a conversation with the principal
these are negative points.
They're negative points. And again, I don't want to say the word for the negative points because it kind of indicates what it was. But if you knew it,
but again,
the letters S and H
And the word it.
And it somehow determined that it was worse than
shoot is perfectly fine.
Yeah. Which means the exact same thing. So I that was just an interesting story about that. But
shoot is fine though.
Yeah, shoot. Anyway.
Shoot.
Dingity dangity.
Diggity dongs. Yeah. But the fact that people are watching right now and go, that guy was a school teacher.
Yeah.
And he's also a history major.
Yeah.
Who knows nothing about history.
What are you talking about? I don't know.
I think we've actually determined that there's been a few things of history that we've talked about that you don't remember.
Based on silly questions?
Based on the Mandela effect.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, and before we go on with how our week was, did we roll before or after how our week was?
Yeah, we can roll right now if you want. Let's just roll.
Grab your phone. It's podcast time. It's the Greg and Tim Show. It's the Greg and Tim Show.
So we rolled. I don't know why we always talk about rolling.
Yeah.
I guess it's like we don't even roll, like it's all digital.
Yeah. Before we go on with how our week was,
can you imagine if I did this all by tape?
Yeah, I'm not even sure anybody.
How hard would it be to splice that all by tape? Anyway, go on. I'm interrupting.
Anyway, that's okay. How awesome was last week, eh? Like Keelback in studio. And I'm still like, oh my gosh. Like when you had him walk in, you got me so good. Like somebody said online, it's like the rule is you're supposed to stand up to shake hands. Yeah. And I was shaking hands and I was sitting down. But because I had no idea what was going on. It's
and you are?
What?
I think the best part was I got you to talk about him for like 5 minutes before he walked in the door. And you're like, I don't know if we'll ever find out why he didn't become the voice of the Jets. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And boom, here he is. Walking through the door. Should we show the clip again?
Yeah.
Okay, let's show the clip.
Oh, hello there. How you doing? Good.
Hi.
You are Tim. Right.
So, you can't even stand up.
Yeah. And
you were in shock.
I was for literally 5 minutes.
It was my Iraq.
Yeah.
Shock and awe.
Yeah.
Is that Iraq? No, that was Afghanistan. I don't know if I can say any of these things, but
that was Iraq.
It was shock and awe.
Shock and awe was Iraq. It brings me back to grade 9 actually when you said shock and awe, which goes back to the Kirk Keelback too. But yeah, like and I had no idea, so I had to have an interview. I mean, I know lots about the subject matter.
Yeah.
And I was right about a couple things that he didn't know.
Yeah, like Grant Fuhrer playing for the Kings,
giving up those last 2 goals for Zhamnov.
He was backing up Rudy,
so
that's
up the first
probably why nobody.
It was that 7-7
knew.
game that I referenced in LA when Zhamnov had those 5 goals.
But can you imagine? He did how many? He did 17 years
and he
of
didn't,
Jets.
And he didn't do that game. He admitted.
And he didn't do that game, but he did 17 years of Jets.
Yeah.
And you're asking him about a very specific game that happened in a specific year on a specific night with Zhamnov. And yes, Zhamnov got 5 goals, so it's a memorable game
you don't have
for
to do
most.
That. You don't have to do that game to remember it, right? If you're,
I didn't remember it.
Yeah.
And I'm a Jets fan.
Yeah. That was one of the most memorable nights in Jets history, especially the end of it.
Did you see it? Because it was at night.
I listened to it.
Did you?
Yeah. So, but anyways, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. I really liked surprising you. I thought that was, and after he left, you just sat on the chair and you were just like,
oh, it's Keelback.
What happened? It was like you literally just went through an entire blackout during the interview.
Yeah.
And you did great. Like you did great considering he was interviewing us, or we were interviewing him and we were asking him questions and all that fun stuff. But the fact that you literally blacked out the entire interview.
No, I didn't. It was really just the first 5-10 minutes. I was with it.
I was watching it back and I'm like, I'll just cut to Keelback because Tim looks like he's like literally stunned.
All right, maybe. But we did have some good questions for him.
It was fun. It was a great interview. I had planned it for a few weeks prior and it was hard to keep it a secret.
Right.
The only people that knew were my son and my wife, and those are the only 2 people that knew. I didn't tell anybody else because I was really worried that somebody would. I'm horrible with secrets. They make me lose sleep.
Yeah.
And I love doing secrets.
Yeah.
Like, I love doing surprises.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, I will get so anxious about the surprise that it'll actually ruin it for me because I'm just worried about the surprise the whole time.
Well, and not only that, but inadvertently you can give a surprise, and then all of a sudden by accident,
It could be my surprise.
like, yeah, no, it could just come out, right?
Yeah.
I remember, I'll tell you the story about when my wife and daughter went to visit Raina, and it was
You're going to tell that story?
it was that big surprise, right? And
Are you allowed to tell the story?
Yeah, I already told my wife.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
After the fact.
and this is the question. This will be a question for people out there. So,
Yeah.
So, my wife planned the surprise to surprise Raina on her birthday. I didn't go,
Yeah.
but Tammy, her mom, and Taylor went. They
Yeah.
were the three people that could go, and it was for Raina's birthday when she was playing volleyball at the University of Toronto.
Yeah.
But she wanted
This
to
was just
keep
a
it
couple
a
weeks ago.
surprise, so we booked the flights, or I booked the flights for the three of them, 3 months before. And they're really excited about that. And then Raina came home for Christmas,
Yeah.
and we're driving in the vehicle. And for my other job, I got a call from my coordinator to take some shifts.
Yeah.
And I can't, as we said earlier,
You have to look at-
you're not
you're not
supposed to take your phone.
You shouldn't be texting and driving or looking at your phone and driving. Yeah.
Yeah, and so and I could talk on the phone because it was attached to my truck,
Yeah.
but I couldn't write the shifts he was giving me. So I said, Raina, can you grab my phone, put the shifts in here while so I can get them, right? And so I didn't think of it. I didn't go ahead.
Because you were
in my
taking all the
brain,
shifts during the time when Tammy was going to be out of town.
or just in general, right?
Yeah.
In that time. So and then Raina's like, "What is this in the calendar for these flights?" Right? It's like, "Oh, is there any possible way we can rewind and you didn't see that?" So she knew. So here was the question. I asked this to a few people at church.
Yeah.
At that point, do you then, because my wife doesn't know, she knows.
Yeah.
Do you tell your wife right away, or do you leave it and allow her to at least think she's surprising Raina? So
It all comes down to how great of an actor is Raina.
I chose the latter
Yeah.
to hold it up, but then 2 weeks later I told my wife,
Yeah.
and she's like, well,
What'd she say?
she felt that I was keeping secrets from her.
Well, you were keeping secrets from Raina.
So that's how she felt.
Yeah.
And then I talked to a couple other people at church, and some people were like, well, no, you tell your wife right away.
Is this why you took extra shifts last week?
No. and then some people said, no, you would wait. And then a couple of people said, you should have waited a lot longer to tell her.
Yeah. You
should have waited a year, 2, 3, 4 years.
At least.
And someone at church told me the story when something happened, and they didn't cop out to it till like 4 years later. Because they said you just needed your issue was you didn't
give enough buffer there.
So that's the question. If, in that scenario, was I incorrect?
Yes, I wouldn't have told her ever.
Okay, I just didn't want to. I just wanted to let her know at some point. But I guess
how was that conversation?
That one. Well, my wife wasn't happy. I think she said, "Well, I kind of knew." Right?
No, she didn't.
She said she had an idea. So anyway, so that was that story. And so again, no faults of my own. I didn't let it slip. It just happened out of a fluke.
Yeah, it was a.
How many times
you did on purpose?
How many times am I in the vehicle when I'm getting shifts, and my daughter, who's gone, is getting that? That'll never happen again in my entire life.
Well, you'll never let it happen again.
Well, no, it's just the scenario won't happen.
You know what the funny thing is? I emailed Kurt Keelback last a couple days before, right?
Yeah,
and it's funny because your situation came up in my mind. I emailed him confirming everything.
Yeah.
And then I was showing you something on my phone, and I was showing you like this.
Yeah.
And you were watching it. And I'm like, if he emailed me back right at that moment, and I totally didn't even I blanked on it. But if he emailed me back, because I had just emailed him earlier that day.
Yeah.
If he emailed me, it would have popped up on the screen, and it would have said Kurt Keelback, and it would have had the name, the information on there. Yeah. Just as a notification. It wouldn't have given you the dates or anything like that, but it would come up as a notification. And I'm like, oh man, and I honestly, again, like I said, surprises stress me out.
Yeah.
Surprises actually give me more anxiety and stress than the person that's getting surprised get when they walk through the door.
Well, and you talk to, typically the people you have surprises for are close to you. So you interact with them every day. So it's like if you had a surprise for your grandma who you don't talk to ever, it's a whole lot easier to keep it. Everyone you interact with every day, you can let it. You have so many more opportunities to let it slip.
Yeah, right? and like I love surprising Lorraine. Like we surprised her with that trip to Vancouver, or not Vancouver, Minneapolis,
right?
Back in October, I believe it was. No, August. Yeah. But anyway, so I surprised her with that, and that took like all of my might not to let it slip.
Yeah. By the way, you have to get back to me on the my first
proposals.
My first proposal. Second one is still in process, but the first one I haven't heard back from you.
No, I get it. Yeah. We got to figure that out.
Yeah.
So anyway, do you want to talk any more about the week, or do you want to get right into some of these topics?
No, we have time. Let's take our time. This is our last podcast recorded until March, late March, right? Yeah. So let's
make Greg edit a 2-hour podcast.
2.5, 3, it's fine. Let's talk about, first of all, your week. How was your week been?
Okay, let me remind most people that are watching right now, because we're a few minutes into the podcast, that everything is chaptered below. So if you want to skip to different things because you're interested in the difficulty in winning championships, or the NHL going back to the Olympics, or our topic of the day, which is love from the male perspective.
Yeah.
If you want to go to any of those things, they're chaptered below, so they can watch those below. And also, don't forget, while you're looking for the chapters here, to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and share the episode with all your friends at Earballs. Sorry, I didn't know what the question was again.
Your week?
My week. It's been a week, man. I don't have a ton to talk about for the week. We had our men's breakfast on Saturday, which we've been doing once a month, but Saturday was the one that we had 2 weeks after the last one, so it wasn't really a month in between. But it's the last chance we have before we go on vacation. I don't think we're going to do one in March, so it was good to get together with all the guys. Just been planning, getting ready for the trip, work, preparing, getting all my work done before I go. Cruz has hockey as always, and it's been a week.
Yeah, it's been a week. I also getting work done before I go. We just finished a job today.
Yep.
Then tomorrow we head off, Friday, which is in a couple of days when the podcast drops. We are driving probably about the exact time the podcast drops. We're driving to Thunder Bay.
T-Bay.
And watching Raina play volleyball. I think it's one of her last tournaments of the year.
Yep.
And so that's going to be great. We have a place for a couple nights in Thunder Bay. Never been to Thunder Bay.
Yep.
So always exciting to visit the big T-Bay area.
Not the big smoke. That would be Toronto. The big pulp.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's a pulp and paper plant.
Is it?
Place? Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you
go.
It
really smells there back in the day when they used to have the plant.
Oh, they don't
I don't think they have the plant anymore.
Okay. I'll let you know if it smells or if it's just me.
I used to visit there very often.
Yeah?
Yeah. I used to go there for work.
Oh, you got to tell me what to do.
Nothing. I literally would go to the store and I'd go back to the hotel and sleep and I'd go back to the store. There's nothing to do.
I heard it's like kind of nice if I want to go for a run. It's kind of nice. The scenery's all right.
I'm sure. It's different than here.
Right. All right. These are not glowing recommendations for Thunder Bay. If anybody out there has something to say about Thunder Bay that Greg is not
I'm sure Thunder Bay is great. I've just never heard any good things about it.
I'm sure it's great. No one's ever said anything good, but I'm sure it is good. And then same as for you, I've been looking forward to our trip. I'm a little bit, I wouldn't say nervous, but excited and slightly nervous because we're going to 4 Hawaiian islands.
Yeah. And
so the advantage of taking a cruise to Hawaii is it's probably the cheapest way you can hit Hawaii.
Yeah.
The disadvantage is you only have like 9 to 14 hours at a time in each stop.
Yeah.
And when you take away the disembark, the getting off the ship, getting back on the ship, you might have between 7 and 12 hours total outside the ship.
Yeah.
And so being that I've never been there, I'm not doing the whole purchasing and
you've got the anxiety of...
I was like, okay, we're going to pick up the car here.
Yeah.
And that is 23 minutes away. And I'm going to run there and pick it up. And then we're going to go here, A, B, C, D. And Honolulu is probably the easiest one because it's, pretty big place. It's pretty urbanized. But some of the other ones, like if you take a wrong turn and you end up in some volcano somewhere, like I don't think we're getting back to the ship. So it's like a little bit unnerving. I've never been there.
You should go watch Joe versus the Volcano.
The
movie.
The movie? Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh, okay.
Tom Hanks and
Meg Ryan.
Meg Ryan. Is it Meg Ryan?
I think so.
Yeah, maybe. I thought that was Sleepless in Seattle, but anyway.
Tom Hanks is with Meg Ryan in no, not Sleepless in Seattle. She got
Sleepless
mail.
in Seattle.
No,
and she got mail.
Sleepless in Seattle was Billy Crystal.
Oh yeah, you're right. Well, she was in there, but sorry, it wasn't Tom Hanks. No, wait, no. Sleepless in Seattle was not Billy Crystal. You're wrong.
Joe versus the Volcano was Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan.
Take a look.
Joe versus the Volcano
understood.
was Tom Hanks and Meg
You're
Ryan,
right.
which you said.
Sleepless in Seattle.
And Sleepless in Seattle.
It was Tom Hanks and
was also Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan.
That was correct.
She Got Mail.
Also.
You Got Mail. You Got Mail.
Yeah, You Got
I
Mail.
actually liked that movie, You Got Mail.
It was like the dawn of the internet.
What was the one where it had Billy Crystal?
Right, When Harry Met Sally.
When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
Was that with Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan?
Yeah.
Meg Ryan
I'll have what she's having.
I'll have what she's having.
Classic one.
When she pretends to,
Yeah. So, so I'm excited about that. But like I said, never been there.
No.
4 stops in Hilo, Kauai, Honolulu, and Kona.
Yep.
Those are the 4. And then it backtracks to Ensenada in Mexico. So, yeah, so it's going to be awesome. And there's more. And the other downside to taking a cruise to Hawaii is you have more time in the boat because it takes longer to get there.
Yep.
But we liked the boat the last time, so looking forward to hanging out in the boat and getting in the hot tub. We're doing Crown Princess, so what they do is the movies under the stars every night. So
that's cool.
yeah, I like that.
Is it at the back of the boat?
Back, front, I don't know.
Back, front, whichever.
What's the difference?
Speaking of Meg Ryan, there was a movie on TV the other day called City of Angels. Have you ever heard of it?
I have. Isn't that? I hate that song. Isn't that a big song?
Yeah.
Is the main.
It's the Goo Goo Dolls.
I can't stand it. I can't stand it lyrically. I can't stand it musically. I don't like it.
Meg Ryan's in a ton of movies back in the day. Whatever happened to Meg Ryan?
Well, she got older.
Yeah. She just got older? That was the problem?
Well, how many movies is George Clooney in?
Yeah, but George Clooney has aged like a fine wine.
Yes, but again, he's not in a ton of movies.
Wow. Meg Ryan was in a lot of things.
And maybe she
Proof
just...
of Life, Addicted to Love.
I'm assuming she made enough money that
When a Man Loves a Woman, Joe versus the Volcano, The Doors.
It's hard to make a movie.
Cut, City of Angels, What Happens Later.
Yeah.
I don't know what she's done recently, but... Top Gun Maverick and Top Gun.
She was in Top Gun Maverick?
Yeah, because she was the mother of the son, and I think they just used her from the first movie.
Yeah, so
they had to credit her.
Okay, she's not really in that movie, but anyway, I assume she saved her money. She doesn't have to work.
Yeah, I don't know. I used to be a big fan of Meg Ryan's.
She's great.
I don't know. It was just like this. I don't know. Back in the day, maybe she was the Scarlett Johansson of my life.
Like, you are a big fan of her acting, or you liked her physically?
Yeah, I liked her acting, her physical appearance,
right?
Her ability
to
make people laugh. Because I thought that You Got Mail was funny. I thought Sleepless in Seattle was funny. Joe versus the Volcano. Those were all fun movies.
Yeah. Do you like rom-coms?
So I do and I don't. I like older rom-coms.
Right.
I feel like the new ones try too hard, or they're very like Netflixy. Do you know what that means?
I like them both. I think sometimes we have a romanticized view of older movies and we think they're better than they actually are.
I feel that they're pumping out so much content that there's less quality.
I think there's less rom-coms today.
If you think about it, look at all the stuff that Meg Ryan was in.
Right.
Can you name me one actress right now that is in every rom-com?
Isn't that a good thing?
No,
is that a bad thing?
Because there's not one that like sticks out. There's not one that is like, this is a great movie because it has this actress in it.
Why is that? Why does that mean that rom-coms are going downhill? I think there's some very good rom-coms.
Do you?
I don't think they're. I don't think Hollywood pushes them as much as they used to.
Yeah.
But I think, and lots of movies too, they go straight to Netflix and all this stuff. So you don't hear it.
The other thing that they're not pushing a lot is just comedies in general.
Right. That's true too.
So like, I think that movies right now are essentially superhero movies.
True.
Horror movies.
I can't stand them.
And action movies. And then there's like the odd, what's it called? The odd movie that is just basically a artsy type of film.
Yeah.
But a movie was really good, and we both agree on this one.
Yeah.
A Man Called Otto.
Hey, it's on the ship.
Tom Hanks.
One of the days on the ship.
Is it?
I have an asterisk bookmarked.
It was a great movie.
In the middle of the day, I'm not sure I'm going to watch it.
It's Tom
watches a
Hanks.
movie in the middle of the day.
What else are you going to do in the middle of the day? On the ship?
No,
Bowl?
Oh, there's
Is there a bowling alley on it?
No, there's a bowling alley.
There was a bowling alley on the one I went on last time.
The Titanic?
No, I didn't go on the Titanic. I'm not as old as you. We went on. It was a Norwegian epic. It had a bowling alley. It had a basketball court. It had
they all have basketball courts.
It had a Cirque du Soleil. It had lawn bowling. It had glass blowing. You could do glass blowing on that one.
Not really have a hankering to do
glass blowing. No,
I didn't wake up like in the middle of the night last night. Oh, I wish I could glass blow today. Like it's not really something.
I'm not going to make the joke.
I endeavor to do.
I'm not going to make the joke.
Anyway, I didn't go there.
I digress.
Okay, so those are our weeks.
Yeah.
So it's been a week. Let's switch gears to sports.
Because everybody loves the sports.
Let's talk about the sports. You have this here. I don't know if it's older, a little too old to talk about.
Oh, I printed the wrong one.
It's okay.
No, I literally printed the wrong page.
Yeah.
Out of none of this stuff is what we're talking about.
I know, and I redid it, so it's okay.
We're not talking about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
The first topic of the day is talking about how hard it is, and you touched on this last week with the Kirk Heelback interview, how hard it is to win a championship this day and age with, and I don't even know why I have this anymore. Go with your phone.
You got to make a big thing where
like it went through glass. It broke the window.
You're very strong.
So you talked about this with Kirk Heelback last week a little bit because of the Jets not winning a championship and the Leafs not winning a championship. The Leafs haven't won since 1967. You also brought up teams like the Sacramento Kings, the Cleveland Guardians, and the Detroit Lions.
All of those teams are coming up on 70 or are over 70 years having not won a championship.
But the Sacramento Kings never won a championship.
Right. So they
were the Rochester Royals
Yeah.
when they won the championship. That's crazy. The Maple Leafs, now here's a stat that I don't know if you knew. The Maple Leafs have never won more than 2 rounds in a playoff.
Since 67.
No.
Oh, because back then.
In 1967, you only had to win 2 rounds to win the Stanley Cup.
Right.
The Jets have played in more rounds of hockey in one season than the Leafs ever have.
Right.
Because the Leafs have never won a second round.
Because at the time they won the last one, there was only 6.
Sorry, they've never won a third round.
Yeah, there were 6 teams back then, right?
I don't know. There was only 4 in the playoffs.
Yeah. So that is crazy. But so what I was going to talk about on this on this topic was even as Jet fans. Let's take Winnipeg Jet fans that we are.
Yeah.
We lived through what was it? 17 years. 1.0 was how many years?
It
96.
Was 17.
So 17 years.
79 to 96.
We are at year 13 for 2.0?
This is year 12.
Okay, so we're coming on the 30th year of...
Wait, the 2021, 2022 was 10. 2022, 2023, that's year 12.
So we're almost to year 30 of being fans of a hockey team in the NHL in the city.
And we got a sniff of it in
2018. We won that game 1 against Vegas, and we thought we were all going to the Cup, and then all went downhill. But it's like, and other than 85, 2018, and maybe one other year sprinkled in there, pretty much every year we haven't come anywhere close to winning, right? And so last year and this year, if you take the Jets, you had these first halves where we're doing great, and then it all starts to pull back a little bit. And when you have a mentality of losing, even as a fan, your brain is like, well, I guess this is it.
There's no lasting power right now with the Jets. Right. It feels like yes, they play again tonight. Yeah. We're taping on a Wednesday. They play against the Sharks tonight at home. But I feel like there's no like finish to the Jets. And the one year that they did do really well in 2018, it was actually a year where it didn't feel like they were going to win the whole year. Like it felt like they were a mid-tier team all year until the end when they picked up Stastny. Right. And Stastny kind of solidified that second line center. And he made Line A better. He made Lowry better because Lowry could drop down to third line. And he gave Scheifele the opportunity to have great players around him. And I think that Jets team overachieved for one thing.
Yeah.
Because...
They weren't picked to even make the playoffs.
No, and the defense wasn't great other than they had Byfuglien, Myers, and Trouba on the right-hand side. Right? So, like, you had a great right-hand side.
Yeah, I think that team was better than you remember it being. Remember we had the four lines. Tanev had all those shorthanded goals that year. I think they were better than you remember. They did. Obviously, by the end of the year, I think they had a pretty good run there as well. Yep. That was one of their better things. But my point is simply that every team, we talk about the Oilers, where they had a horrible start. They were awesome now recently. And you have every team where it seems like it's up and down. But the teams that win, they're like, well, it's just a downtime now. We're going to come back up. Yeah. Because there's ebbs and flows to a season. But when you have a losing mentality, it's almost like, well, here we go again. It's never going to go back up if we lose two. And I'm guilty of this as a fan. And as a fan, I have no say in the matter anyway. I have no impact on how the players do. Yeah. But when you are part of a losing franchise, and I can say losing franchise, you kind of come to maybe expect it mentally. So that's just 30. We haven't hit year 30 in Winnipeg, and who knows how long this team's going to be here. But again, take a look at the Leafs. Like you said, the Guardians used to be the Indians. The Sacramento Kings never have won or even come close. I think those Vlade Divac years in the 90s, or late 80s were very good, but still didn't come close. Detroit Lions, now, when they had that lead on San Francisco and all came crumbling down, again, they thought they were going to the Super Bowl. Yeah. And they looked like they were going to do it, right? But as a fan, you just have this mentality, and I wonder if as an athlete, if it ever comes into play too. But, when you're used to losing, and in some markets, it almost is a claim to fame. Like when the Chicago Cubs didn't win for 100 years, it was almost a unifying force. When the Boston Red Sox didn't win, and you had the ghost of that Bambino and going through Buckner's legs, that ball, you almost had a unifying thing that everyone can claim of not winning. And it's almost like when they won, everything became less special.
So do you remember the movie Fever Pitch?
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
So they were filming that movie during the season, and they actually had to change the ending because the Red Sox, they didn't think the Red Sox would actually win the World Series. They actually changed the ending, and I remember seeing the ending of Fever Pitch and seeing Drew Barrymore and Jimmy Fallon on the field hugging and kissing at the end of the World Series. And the rumors were like, what's going on here, right? And it was because they were filming the movie, but they actually filmed it during the playoffs. Yeah. And they had to change the ending of that movie because, or the ending of the season of that movie because of that win. If you haven't watched Fever Pitch yet.
Which, by the way, I thought was underrated.
It's a good baseball movie. I think
it's a good movie.
I think Jimmy Fallon cheapens it a bit because I think that his reputation and everything like that isn't great as being he's one of those rom-com guys. Yeah. He'll be in a rom-com every month of the year if he was asked to be, right?
I enjoy the movie.
Yeah. No, I thought it was a good movie. I like baseball movies, and I don't mind Jimmy Fallon, and I really like Drew Barrymore. So I thought it was good.
The funniest part of that movie is when they're talking in the stadium and they're one section over and they have no mic, and apparently they can hear. Have you ever been to a stadium and try to talk to someone a section over? Yeah. It's like, I couldn't hear them. What? All of me is what? That's the whole conversation. But they could talk in a mid-range voice, apparently. Anyway, so.
But.
and
so just another thing. Yeah. Drew Barrymore in rom-com movies. Yeah. How many Adam Sandler movies has she been in?
Oh, they're best friends.
Speaking of another couple that's always in movies together. Yeah. Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore. Yeah.
They were like best friends.
Think we can get Drew Barrymore on the show?
And Jennifer Aniston, because they both females do Adam Sandler.
Yeah, I don't really care to get Jennifer Aniston on the show, but I'd get Drew Barrymore.
So if I happen to get her United
Aniston, yeah, she's good, but I would try Barrymore first.
And Barrymore's got I watched a documentary on her crazy past. Oh my god.
Yeah, a lot of drugs.
And last year, less than a year ago, my wife and kids went to see Drew Barrymore show. They were
okay.
Yeah, so they had their faces on TV and everything. I was watching. I took a screenshot.
Nice.
Anyway,
it's hard to win a championship in sports.
It's so very hard. And actually,
we got way off track.
And we'll get back on track here. So you're talking about the Red Sox when they won, and they filmed a movie.
Yeah,
and they hadn't won in I don't know how many years, like a zillion years.
100,000.
So
I think
they thought it was pretty safe to do it because they're not going to win. It's been a million years, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they win. And if you take the other example too, and you know this story very well, when they did all those renovations to Wrigley Field, and the Cubs hadn't won like over 100 years, like it was like the biggest streak ever.
And they're planning to renovate all off season.
Yeah, they're planning to renovate it, and they threw out the idea of as well. It'd be easier to renovate and cheaper if they played somewhere else for a year.
Yeah.
Right. But they decided against it. And if they had played elsewhere that year, they would have missed. That was the year they won the World Series. Can you imagine if they played elsewhere and they couldn't, and they won, but it wasn't at Wrigley, and they did, and they actually clinched in Cleveland, not Wrigley.
Yeah.
But still, and I think that's true. Actually, now I'm second guessing myself.
I believe so.
Okay.
That was the year the Jays lost to Cleveland in the playoffs.
Yeah. So, but imagine that, like some of these things, and
the Jays lost to the Royals one year, and then Cleveland the next.
Yeah,
and then that's the year the Cubs won.
Yeah,
the Cubbies,
and then now they're bad again. But yeah, not bad, but they're not
not great.
Yeah, so that's just.
I like the Cubbies.
Yeah,
they're a good team. They're a fun team to like.
But again, it was more when they hadn't won.
Yeah,
it was almost more special.
Yeah,
to go.
Like I admit I liked the Red Sox more before they started winning.
Right.
Because they were like the lovable losers, and they won a few years in a I think they won 2 or 3 years since they broke the curse.
Yeah,
but the Cubs only won the once.
Yeah,
so they're still the lovable losers. I still like the Cubs, and I think it's because they've got like a friendly uniform.
Right,
it's red, white, and blue. It's pinstriped. It's in an old school stadium.
Yeah,
like there's nostalgia around watching some of these teams, but then there's teams like the Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah.
Who cares if they win, right? Or teams like the Sacramento Kings. Who cares if they ever win? Now, if the Leafs ever won a Stanley Cup, it would be the end of Canada as we know it.
Right.
I think that we would be done. That city would get burnt to the ground.
Well, Vancouver almost did, and
they lost
in Game 7. Yeah,
and they lost Game 7. Anyway.
So, part 2 of our sports discussion.
Yeah, we have a second part. That's correct.
So the All-Star game for the NHL was this last weekend.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, sorry.
Yep.
The NBA All-Star game is coming up.
Yep.
The Pro Bowl was previous as well.
Yeah, so this subject's not on my list.
Yeah.
But we can talk about it.
Yeah. Were we going to talk about the All-Star games?
No, the Olympics.
Okay, I think that was part of it.
Oh, okay. We'll mash them together.
So,
I'm sorry, I printed the wrong episode.
So there's 2 episodes, or there's 2 things that happen in each of the All-Star games. So in the NFL talent part of the individual
gridiron games,
yeah, something like that. The quarterbacks have this moving target they're supposed to throw, and Jalen Hurts looked like he was mailing it in, like he wasn't very interested in being here. Chuck, and it was over.
Kucherov,
and in the NHL, Kucherov did the same thing, the skills competition, and people started booing him because he was like, it was like you on a Monday morning doing spreadsheets, right? It's like, I'm not awake yet, I don't want to be here. And then he woke up in the game, but so
and then you got a guy like Jason Kelsey who's literally out there practicing his snaps for the snapping competition.
Yeah, so
some guys love it.
So the question is, and now especially the ticket prices, if you take a look for some of these All-Star games, are, it's not like the Super Bowl, which we'll get into in a bit.
Yeah.
But they're pricey. And the people say, well, you're going to pay all this money, you better come to perform.
Yeah.
First of all, do you expect professional athletes, to give their 100% best in each of the All-Star games.
I expect them not to.
Why?
I honestly expect them not to. And the reason why I expect them not to is because I personally, if that was a player from my team, like I'm watching Connor Hellebuck during these like drills where they're doing like breakaway drills or like different movement drills. And I'm like, don't pull your hamstring trying to like move back and forth with this. Don't overexert yourself. Be the guy that we want for the second half.
Yeah.
There has been issues where players have gone into these stupid, can I say stupid on this podcast?
Well,
idiotic.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Moronic tournaments in the mid-season, which we're gonna go into in just a second, to get hurt, and they hurt their team's chances of winning a championship. And yeah, like if Matthews got hurt during the All-Star game, I probably wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But if Connor got hurt during the All-Star game, I would. And so that means I don't care if Matthews gives his all or Kucherov gives his all, because I know that the fans of those teams would rather them, in my opinion, stay healthy than to hurt themselves. Watching McDavid skate around the ice as fast as he can. What if he catches something and lands in the boards, blows out his knee or shoulder at that speed?
Right.
I don't like it. I don't like the All-Star game.
So you don't like All-Star games in general.
In general.
Right.
I think other than the baseball one.
Right.
The baseball All-Star game is the only pure All-Star game that you're watching.
Because you can give it 100% without...
The only thing I worry about in baseball is the pitchers.
Right. Yeah, and they're probably not throwing their hardest, I'm assuming. But again,
It used to count. It used to count for home field advantage.
Yeah. Again, you can slip getting out of your shower. You can slip...
Yeah.
You can get hurt running after a fly
ball. But if you're going around the ice at breakneck speed, just to show people how fast you can skate, I can see that in a game.
Right.
I don't need to see it in an all-star skills competition. Right. And the fact that like he almost got beat by somebody who they didn't even think would beat him.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter to me. I just don't care about the All-Star game. And I don't care about the football All-Star game because it's horrible to watch. Yeah. It's the worst All-Star game in the world.
Nobody wants to hit anybody else.
The basketball one's not bad because basketball's a non-contact sport.
Right.
But there's no defense.
No defense.
It's like 1,000 to 1,000 in that game.
Right.
The baseball one's probably the only one I actually really enjoy like watching. I like watching the home run derby.
Yeah.
I like watching the celebrity slow pitch. But I'm just not a big fan of any other All-Star games, and I think that they're a waste of time.
Right.
CFL got rid of their All-Star game back in the 80s, I think. Now they just have an All-Star team. They just nominated an All-Star team.
Right.
Did you know that the CFL used to do an All-Star game?
I do. I don't remember ever seeing it, but I remember they did.
Yeah, I have an old Edmonton Eskimos book that has like pictures from the All-Star game.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Do we have to bleep that out?
No, because that's what it was at the time. That's the name of their team at that time.
They're the Elks.
They're the Elks now.
Or are they the Elks?
The Edmonton Elks?
They're the Elks?
I think they're the Elks.
Okay.
I don't know. But anyway, so off the topic of All-Star game, there's another topic that's a mid-summer game, mid-season thing, and that's the Olympics.
Yeah.
And the Olympics are coming back to in 2026 for Winter Olympics, and the NHL has committed to be in the 2026 and the 2030 Olympics now.
Right. When was the last time the pros were in?
2014.
Okay, so
it's going to be 12 years.
Yeah.
And that means that they would have had 2018, 2022, 2 Olympics without professionals.
Right.
And honestly, it makes the Olympics exciting. 100%. You know, Canada versus the USA, Sweden versus Finland, Finland versus Canada. Like, they're all great games.
Yeah.
But again, I think this happened in the World Cup tournament where a player actually got hurt and missed half the season for one of these tournaments that aren't even to do with one of the teams that actually owns their rights.
Right.
But you're playing for your country.
Yeah, and again, you can get hurt walking out of your shower too, right?
And I'm okay with playing for your country versus playing for an all-star game.
Right.
Like, I am much better with playing for your country
Right.
But the World Cup one that the NHL did before the season,
yeah,
I wasn't really impressed with that one. I was okay if they didn't do that ever again because that just didn't make any sense. They did it preseason.
Right.
It's the same with the World Baseball Classic. They do it before baseball season starts.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, if you like, we watched it last year. One of the major players was it Acuna?
Yeah.
Broke his hand in the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
And it's, again, now he can't play for his actual team.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a freak accident and it shouldn't happen. But at the same time, it wouldn't have happened. And what would have been the difference for that year?
Yeah, it's life.
And now we have...
it is what it is. I know you like that one.
It is what it is. And now we have the controversy as well about whether or not Russia...
So, and that's what I was going to say. Like, we have this whole political issue with the Ukraine and Russia and the conflict there that we don't allow Russia to play in anything, whatever international tournaments, right?
But this happened before that.
Yeah, it did.
Yes, it happened before the Ukraine thing.
So what's the deal?
I think it was drugs.
Really?
I think it was a steroid thing.
Okay.
And they had been caught doing some illegal activity with their sporting events.
Right.
You keep going. Talk about the Russia-Ukraine thing. I'm going to check it out real
quick.
And
we just had it with the World Juniors, where, like, can you really determine who is the best when one of the best isn't there? And remember, I know you don't remember this, but there was an Olympics when Russia was not allowed to participate. Or
that's what I'm talking about.
In 1980.
Yeah.
And so it was like the U.S. was cleaning up because they didn't have Russia.
So Russia's not allowed to play in the summer games,
right,
due to their involvement in the Ukraine war. But the original reason why Russia was not allowed in the Olympics was due to widespread violations of anti-doping regulations, right, including an attempt to sabotage ongoing investigations. So they were known as the what do they call them? Like, some athletes still participated, but they participated under the Olympic flag as opposed to the Russian flag, right?
Because it's difficult to punish an athlete which has nothing to do with the political agenda of their country that they live and reside in and play for.
Yeah.
What do they have to do?
So this year, coming up in the Summer Olympics, they're not allowed to participate because of the Ukraine thing. And that's why they weren't allowed to participate in the World Juniors as well.
Right.
So where do we draw that line?
Yeah. I mean, then
where do you draw that line?
Well, we haven't even got into the whole conflict and who's in the right. There's lots of people that think that the Ukraine is not. There's some crazy business going behind the scenes. Is everything on the up and up? Do you completely disagree with some people agree with the Russians and what they're doing? I don't have a political agenda, or I don't know enough about the circumstance to have an opinion on it.
Yeah.
But is it cut and dry? I don't know. Right. And it's a conflict just like any other conflict. The other issue is, how many conflicts has the U.S. been involved in?
Yeah.
Going back to Vietnam, et cetera, where they have had decades in which they get themselves involved in things too.
Yeah.
I don't remember the U.S. being disqualified for anything.
Yeah.
What's the difference, I guess? And again, I don't know enough about the topic politically to really have an opinion. And I'm not sure a lot of people do.
Yeah.
The speaking points in the media, what you listen to. And I don't know enough to really have an opinion. But all I know is until Russia's into those events, it is not best on best on best.
Yeah.
It just isn't.
Yeah. And Russia is a powerful country in terms of the sporting.
Yeah.
Right? Like both Olympics, winter and summer, Russia's always been powerful, just like the U.S. Yeah. Can you imagine if the U.S. and Russia were both disqualified from Olympics?
Yeah.
How many other medals would go to other countries?
Right.
And here's the thing, in the U.S., the Olympics is a money thing. Like the
Olympics are a money thing in a lot of countries, but
not in Canada.
Yeah.
Like the funding that goes to athletes in the U.S. is astronomical compared to Canada.
Well, there's 10 times the population, but yeah.
But it's not even just that though. It's the funding. that goes to them,
Yeah.
and the sponsorships and the endorsements and all the money that comes out of it.
Yeah.
If you're a good athlete, you have way more incentive to become a really good athlete in the US than you do in Canada. And yes, they do have a population that's higher.
Yeah. And not only that, but more time to train. The more money.
But then you look at places like Sweden.
Yeah.
How come they're better than us?
In what?
In the Winter Olympics.
Are they?
I think so. I don't know. I'm just making it up.
Yeah. If you just can encapsulate our whole podcast, you just said that. I don't know. I'm just making it up.
Let me go with Winter Olympics. Winter Olympics standings.
That's funny.
In 2020. So in the Winter Olympics in 2020, the standings went like this. Bum, bum, bum. United States, China, ROC. Do you know what ROC is? That's the Russians.
Russia Olympic
Committee, I guess. I don't know.
It can't be committee.
So United States, China, ROC. But then after that, think about this. Yeah. Great Britain.
Yeah.
Japan has a lot of people, yes.
Yeah.
Australia.
Yeah.
Italy. Germany. The Netherlands. France. And then Canada.
Okay, so we did beat Sweden.
Yes, in the Tokyo Olympics.
Yeah.
We did not beat the Netherlands, France, Germany, Italy, Australia, and Great Britain.
Yeah, you're right.
In population,
and I'm sure, like you said, money is a big issue with that.
Great Britain was fourth.
Yeah.
And now eliminate United States and
England does have more people than us too, and they're pretty cold in winter.
Eliminate United States and Russia, and you have Great Britain, Japan, Australia, and who knows how many of those medals would have went to Canada that the United States got. Right? Like, who knows how many more bronze or silver medals they would have gotten because the United States didn't get any. Right? So the top ones, like China and Great Britain, wouldn't change very much.
Yeah.
Because, they're already getting gold and silver.
Yeah.
But just think about the gold and silver that they would have gotten, that the United States got. They would have just...
Yeah, well, when you take out two of the biggest countries, you're going to get more.
That's what I mean, though.
A piece of the pie.
So Russia gets to stay in, or gets to be eliminated, and the United States gets to stay in due to political reasons.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Politics and sports, eh? So let's move on.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use the Super Bowl to transition a couple of from the sports to the other
Here's the problem. You don't have the last topic.
I don't?
No.
I know what it is.
But you don't have it though. Should I print it out for you?
No, I know exactly. I know exactly what we're doing.
What is it?
We're talking about love from a male perspective.
Oh, okay.
I know what we're talking about.
So do you want me to ask? Because I got the questions.
Let's transition.
Okay, we'll transition.
Okay, and I'm going to use a different topic to transition.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we talked a lot about sports, and let's talk a little about. So the Super Bowl was a couple days ago.
Yeah.
The Kansas City Chiefs. We're talking Patrick Mahomes and a dynasty 2 years in a row. We're done. By the way, the fixing thing has been. Can we talk that it was a bunch of BS with the colors?
No, we can't. Because
the teams that were
the Chiefs were red and yellow, and red and yellow was in the colors.
Anyways, it's going to take too long to go back into that, but I believe those two teams,
there's a lot of people that still say it's fixed because of the fact that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce still won it.
Yeah, so Taylor Swift made it there. Yeah. They showed her a bunch in the second half. Actually, Kelce had 1 yard in the first half, had a bunch in the second.
I think Swift was on the camera like 12 times, even though Kelce touched the ball like 3.
Yeah, by the end of it, I think it was more. He was having quite a bit of touch.
The over/under was 5.5, and she destroyed it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody wants this. Well, I shouldn't say everybody.
Did you hear about Brock Purdy though?
No, tell me.
So the over/under for his yardage was 12.5.
Okay.
For the first half.
Okay.
And at the end of the first half, he took a knee.
Oh, okay.
Dropped him down to 12 yards.
Right.
So anybody that took the over that was sitting at 13. Lost the over
if you're
on the knee at the end of the game.
At the Super Bowl, I don't know. Anyway,
that's what people do.
Yeah,
it's all over TV.
So
we're actually brought to you by Bet365.net. No, we're not. We're not brought to you by anything, but we could be.
They won. It was a great game. Well, at least a great last 2.5 quarters.
Yeah.
and won at the end by the easiest touchdown I've ever seen in my life. And then everyone went crazy, Kelsey and Swift and all that stuff. And the Chiefs won again, hard fought, lost by the 49ers. I thought for most of the game, I thought they were going to win. But then yesterday, today, the day we're taping, was the day they had their parade for the Super Bowl, and everything was good. And at the end of the parade, there was a shooter.
Yeah.
And I think there was 10 people that were hit. At the time of taping, I don't believe there was any fatalities, but that could change.
Yeah, we don't know the actual numbers.
And from what I understand, the perpetrator was tackled. So there's people that had a lot of courage in the whole incident.
Yeah.
But it's the second shooting that we've talked about in the last week.
We didn't talk about last week's.
But we'll talk about it now. So on Sunday, we follow a lot of the big churches in Lakewood, which is the church in Houston where Joel Osteen preaches. Also, somebody at just before the 2:00 Spanish service was shooting. Brought in a child, and they were shooting, and two plainclothes police officers who were packing. Actually shot them down before they could do more damage.
Yeah, in the hallway.
Right. So these are two places where you would think there should be no shooting. This is a happy place. This is a happy celebration, church. And there's shootings in the United States. And this brings to bear, and I wasn't going to talk about it after the first one, but after today's, I thought it was an interesting discussion. In that we had a discussion in our group where we had said, well, it's a good thing that these off-duty officers at the church in Houston at Lakewood, they had guns, because then the perpetrator could have killed more people. Right?
Are we going to have a gun discussion?
And so I would like to maybe not have a long gun discussion.
Okay.
But it's worth talking about.
Not a long arm of the law discussion?
So here's how I feel, and you can think about this for a bit, but I'm going to lay it down.
I know what you're going to say.
My thoughts. So there's two schools of thought, and we live in Canada.
Where we don't have guns.
And it seems like...
We have paintball weapons.
It seems like for so many issues, there are groups in one ditch and groups in the other ditch. And Leon always talked about being in the middle. To be on either ditch is dangerous. So it seems like in the United States, everyone gets a gun. You get a gun. They get a gun. And how many, 75, 80, 90%?
Depends which state you're in, but yes.
90% of the people really don't have the capability to possess a gun. Right? And in Canada, it's like we're going to try to abolish as many guns as we can, even if it doesn't make any sense. And it just seems like parabolically,
there's two ditches.
There's two ditches that these two countries are in. And it's like the argument for Canada would be, well, if we try to eliminate all the guns, it's a statistical issue. If there's less guns, we're not talking about any specific example, but if there's less guns, there will be less gun crime. And there is, I believe, statistically some truth to that.
But there's more stabbing crime.
Or XYZ. Now, there's things that play into that, like population base. I always say there's 10 times more people, and when you have 10 times more people crammed into cities, you're going to have more issues. So that's a variable that isn't where we live. But there is some truth to that statistical argument. Whereas in the U.S., the argument is, well, if that person didn't have a gun, guns can be used both for good and they can be used for bad. And if the bad guys are just going to get their guns illegally anyway, so all you're doing is taking guns away from the law-abiding citizens.
So I think that I know what your question is going to be, but go ahead, ask it.
Do you tell me what my question is going to be?
You forgot what your question was going to be.
I didn't actually formulate a question.
Well, the question I think you're going to say is like, so in our chat, somebody said it's a good thing that they had guns. And then I believe you may have retorted to that just to bring up a comment and a point that what if they didn't have guns, then maybe the people that were there wouldn't have had gun either. But then there was a comment right after that saying the people that want to get a gun will find a way to get a gun.
Yeah. So, and I didn't necessarily have a question.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about this out loud.
Yeah.
And trying to
live on the podcast.
To think about
we talk sports, guns, and
when
sports.
we consider that these two opposite ends of the spectrum are in a ditch.
Yeah.
Is it better to be in the American system?
Yeah.
Or is it better to be in the Canadian system? And where do people fall in their opinions of that? Yeah. And do you think, and I guess that's the question, do you think overall, it's the greater good question, right?
Yeah.
Because you could argue, yes, in that specific example at Lakewood, yes, there probably would have been more deaths if that off-duty officer, or those two off-duty officers did not have guns. However,
we know the security in our church.
Yeah.
Right? And we know that if I wanted to purchase a firearm somewhere in Canada, I would be able to. Whether or not I could get it from the States or from wherever I want to get it from, I could get one if I really, really want one.
Right.
We know who the security guards are in our church.
Yeah.
If somebody came in with a gun, what would you do?
So, and again...
but that's the question. So I know there's no real right answer to this question.
But the argument against that is in 30 some odd years that I've been to the church, I've seen a gun 0 times. And the argument for most liberals or anyone that really, you don't even have to be a liberal to believe that guns, let's just say guns are bad. You shouldn't own them. There's no real good. We don't live in this day and age where you have to shoot your animals. I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just saying I'm using that argument because I have good friends who do hunt.
Yeah.
And I'm not, for their purposes, I support them, but I'm just saying that for argument's sake, right?
Yeah. The other thing too is that in Canada we probably live in the least populated area of Canada,
right?
In Manitoba.
Yeah.
If we lived in Ontario, the violence there is much different,
right? Or
even in Vancouver, right?
Well,
you have to look at it from a point of view of. Not just in Winnipeg. Right. You have to look at it from the point of view like that happened in Houston, one of the most heavily populated cities in the United States.
Right.
That happened in Kansas City, which has a little bit higher crime rate than other places in the United States.
Right.
Right. So you have to think about it from the point of view of where it's happening. And it's not happening because, people can get guns easier in Kansas City. Or in Houston.
Right.
It's happening because there's a higher population and there's a higher crime rate and there's more.
Do you think that plays into it though? Like it has to. Like if it's easier to get a gun for the general public and there's more guns.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I agree.
If you introduce more weaponry, it's going to get used eventually.
I'm not pro or con gun. I know that there's friends of mine that hunt that feel like the weapon that they use is something that they deserve.
Yeah.
And you know what? The country was founded with hunters and gatherers and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not pro or against guns.
Right.
But I do think that there is a place for them in the hunting community and a place for them in the sport community.
Sport community?
Yeah, like sport shooting and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Like why?
Because I think it's like a skill.
Right. Like a hatchet throwing.
Yeah, well, there's hatchet throwing.
Yeah, it's like the skeet shooting.
Skeet shooting. I've done skeet shooting. It's fun.
Right.
Have you ever skeet shooted?
No.
No?
No.
My shoulder hurt for probably 2 weeks afterwards. I'm weak.
I remember a comedian talking about skeet shooting. It's like, that's like you combine high-powered riflery with cross-country skiing or whatever he said. He's like, that's a bad combination. Let's say you're in second place.
Well, but what's that called when they do that skiing?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Biathlon? No.
Biathlon.
Yeah.
Where they ski and shoot.
So that was the joke.
That's like...
Yeah. He said, like, if you're in second place...
But do you know why it's such a hard game? Yeah, you get shot in the back. You know why biathlon's so hard?
No.
And it's one of the things that we learned from one of our future guests that you're going to see on an episode. But it's about controlling your heart rate.
Right.
So it's in the winter, it's outside,
Yeah.
you're skiing at a very high level,
Yeah.
and then you have to stop, set up,
Yeah.
lay down,
Yeah.
and then control your heart rate to the point where you actually shoot
Yeah.
properly
Yeah.
at the target. Once you hit it, then you can get up, put yourself together, put it back on your back,
Yeah.
and then ski again.
Right.
And again, at a high level.
Yeah.
Like, it's a hard...
Yeah.
I don't think biathlon athletes get as much attention as they should, because they have a hard... They have to ski and they have to shoot.
Yeah.
But skeet shooting is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Skeet shooting is fun. Where they shoot the little clay pigeons in the air and you get to shoot them. It's fun. Next time I go, I'm going to let you know.
Where'd you
Buddy Adam's place.
go? Which one? No, the Adam.
The one Adam
The
that
Adam?
we hang out with.
Yeah.
Yeah, his place.
Oh, really? He can do that there.
Yeah, he lives out in the country.
Okay. All right. I want to go. I'm in.
Yeah,
Let me know.
I'll let him know.
Anyway, so again, I'm kind of like you. I'm not on either side of the argument.
Yeah.
My points were just, it just seems like there's such polar opposites.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to lay out some of my thoughts on it.
You want to lay down the law.
And maybe people have opinions on there.
Yeah. If you have an opinion, feel free to share it. Tim loves opinions.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Are we doing this last topic?
yes.
Okay. So the last topic of the day,
we
roll the music. This is the first time we've rolled topic of the day music in a long time.
Okay, hooray. It's time for the topic of the day.
So
Topic of the day is love
I'm going to lay this out.
from the male perspective.
So we talked a little bit before about
You're just-
what?
Nothing. You just want to get into it. Go ahead. Yeah. Everybody's listening to this
Would
at
you like
two.
me to- did you
Everybody's
say
listening at 2.5 times. We know that already. So
Why is that? Yeah.
I don't know.
So we talked about rom-coms. We both enjoy rom-coms.
Yeah.
We're probably in the 20% percentile for guys that like romantic comedies, but I love them. But my question was this: we taped. It's February 14th. It's Valentine's Day.
We both don't celebrate it.
I actually did this year a little bit.
I don't celebrate
Yeah,
it.
I know you don't.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people feel that it's just commercialized for financial gain and it's geared toward women.
It's a Hallmark holiday.
Right. So my question is this.
Yeah.
So love.
You go ahead. Ask me this question.
Love in general, when we talk about love, it seems to be romanticized. It's about flowers. It's about chocolate. If it's Valentine's Day, it's about unrealistic rom-coms where everything happens, perfectly, and there's the happy ending at the end. And when we talk about love, it's never geared to the male perspective. And again, I don't want to suggest everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm sure 20% of guys would love to get roses. 20% of guys are very mushy when it comes to their feelings.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the guy who goes and hunts, like you talked about. He's a man's man, if you want to call it that way.
Ron Swanson.
And we talked about this. There's a few messages. It's Love Month, right? So at Springs, we talked. There's a couple things we talked about what love really is. But what is love, and how is it important to a man in society, in history, and today?
Yeah. So these are the questions that you gave me. This week. Do you want me to read all the questions?
Take them one at a time.
One at a time. Is love commercialized towards women?
What do you think?
I think it's more commercialized towards women, and I think that they're slowly making it a man and woman thing, but I think it'll always be more of a lovey-dovey, sappy type of women's thing.
Right.
So,
and in conjunction to that question,
yeah.
Explain why you do not celebrate Valentine's Day.
So me and Lorraine have never celebrated Valentine's Day. It's one of the things we talked about when we were dating. It's like, oh, we don't celebrate Valentine's Day because everything's overpriced.
Right.
The restaurants are all packed. I could go out to a restaurant tomorrow to the exact same place and have the exact same meal, and it'd be half as packed, and I don't have to wait as long, or I don't have to make a reservation. Yeah. Flowers. You bought flowers today, I heard.
You know what? I never buy flowers.
Yeah.
And today I was like, I want to buy flowers. So
how much were those flowers? Can you say, or do you not want to say?
Well, we don't have to tell people that.
Okay, we won't tell people.
They were very nice.
Yeah,
but
but they were Costco flowers.
Yeah.
So they were on steroids.
Yeah.
And they were bought in bulk.
They weren't that
You
expensive.
bought 3 months worth of flowers at Costco.
Yeah, but it might have been 4 years since I got my wife flowers.
But that's fine. But at the same time, I could get flowers in a week at Safeway for $12.
No, not anymore.
I don't get the expensive ones. So
No,
I get the petunias.
So just like anything else, inflation. I don't know if you bought flowers.
Yeah,
lately.
flowers are expensive.
It's expensive. But anyway.
So the second question you have is, has Hollywood changed the definition of love to be something it's not?
Right. So that goes to the rom-com. And it's funny because in Hollywood, it's the old adage that talk about any actor that's been around for more than 20 years.
Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay.
But even older generations, that they've all been married.
Yeah.
You know, if you have anybody,
multiple times.
Alicia Keys, who just did part of the halftime show at the Super Bowl.
That was awkward.
Was it?
Well, her husband was watching.
Okay. I thought she did a good job, actually.
She did a good job, but her husband was watching Usher do his thing.
It wasn't that bad.
No?
It wasn't as bad as the one a few years ago. Anyway, but they've all been married 3-4 times.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about the feelings.
Is love an emotion?
That's another question too.
Is love an emotion?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
So what's the definition of an emotion?
So
what's the definition to you? Answer my question. I don't want you to ask another question.
I'm answering the question by going and giving you a scenario, right?
Okay.
So if love is an emotion, you would wake up and love, your family members half of the time. Because do you wake up and have a deep emotional love for each of your family members every time you wake up in the morning?
So the definition of emotion is a natural instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstance, mood, or relationship with others.
Right.
So you don't think that that's love?
No, because your emotions, and we talked about this last week, not in our podcast, but emotions are fleeting. Emotions can lie to you. You have a bad sleep and you're grumpy.
Yeah. But I
think
have
a bad piece of pizza.
I don't think that means that love's not an emotion.
Right.
I think love, you choose to love still.
Right. And that goes to the point of love is a choice, not an emotion.
Okay. Is it an action?
I think so, yeah.
So to love something is to be an actionable thing?
Right. And I think we also touched upon our 5 love languages where some people are more action oriented in
right above your head.
Yeah. In what they do, right? So some people do show their love, and we talked about this different ways, and one is by doing things. Acts of service, right, was one of the 5, right?
Yeah.
And others, gifts and so on and so forth. So we do establish that. But
what was your love language? Do you remember?
I don't remember what my 2 were. I'm sure you'll remind me, but I've since realized, and I paid attention to it, that acts of service.
Acts of service was it.
Okay, is
what's mine?
Gifts.
Nope.
No, but you give me gifts all the time.
That's not my love language.
No.
Words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation. Oh yeah, we talked about this before. Yeah.
And I do like gifts.
Yeah.
But you can probably see a difference in my reaction when I get a gift.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you get me a gift that's amazing, I'll have a reaction. And I love gifts. But one of my favorite gifts wasn't even really a gift to me, and it wasn't really something that was planned to give to me. But I got to do on-field experience with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah.
And I got to do that at the Sky Dome. And
we'll see a picture right here.
Yeah. So I got to do that, and that was something that one of my former directors for Rogers actually scheduled out for me. And he knew how big of a Blue Jays fan I was, and he had an extra spot available. And he's like, "Hey, Greg, I'm gonna get you into this." And that, and you know when it was? The day before my birthday, and it was man, that got me where I was so excited and that's a gift. Yeah. But I think it's also an act of service. Yeah. And for me, that's my love language. My love language is something, obviously the words of affirmation, but doing something for me that I didn't expect you to do, or getting to do something I didn't get expected to do, like the free throw
Yeah.
that we did,
Yeah.
or, you know, asking some of these guys to be on our podcast that we've had on the podcast, when they say yes, that's something that's like, that hits here, right? Where I'm like, I'm important enough that they're actually going to take their time out of their day to come and talk to us. And, you know, and that's kind of like a sappy way of looking at it. But at the same time, like, I honestly, when I send these messages back to these people that have been on our show, I have this heartfelt emotion given to them saying, hey, thank you. I appreciate it. Because my love language is words of affirmation. Yeah. So when I do that back, it's coming from my heart.
Right.
And same with people that leave comments, right? People that leave comments on our show, when I comment back to those people, this is coming from like, thank you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So like people that leave comments are really pushing into my love language.
Right. As opposed to I'm responding out of duty to recognize, so sorry. So for me, I'm a little more analytical, and I'd be like, well, I would think that way. Like, I want to appreciate those people for leaving a comment.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I take the time to respond and make sure that they are affirmed and they'll keep listening or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So much more, I would have...
You're analytical about
it.
I'm emotional about
less feeling about it.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, one of the things I would like to do more of is have, more emotion. I've said, I don't know if I've said this in the podcast. The two things I wish I would do more is cry and throw up.
Yeah, I've thrown up.
And I'll explain the throw up thing.
Not on purpose.
I'll explain the throw up thing, because when you're sick, and I don't get sick often.
Yeah.
But you know how you're like, if I could just throw up and get some of this out of it, whatever, I'd feel better, and I can't.
Yeah.
I try, I can't.
And it's the same as crying, like when something
it's like, I wish
you sad.
So I've if I haven't cried, I might have cried 3 times in 6 years.
Oh, really? That's it?
That's it.
Wow.
So
I cried this week.
Yeah, exactly. So that is 2 of the things, and maybe I need psychological help for that.
No, I don't think so. I think it's just you detach yourself,
right? And
emotionally.
And I said this.
That's why it's an emotion.
And I said this week. I said I have this annoying ability to detach myself, and I told you that this week. For that, and keep doing what I was doing, even though there was an emotional aspect to something that happened.
Yeah.
Right. So, anyway,
and I find it hard. Like, I don't know how you feel, but when I talk about something that affects me, a lot of times it will actually affect me.
Right.
Right. So, whereas you are like a robot.
Well,
and you're very much like, hello, my name is Tim, and I accept your emotions.
Now we're taking it a little too far.
No, I know. I'm just joking.
Right. So
we're in the other ditch.
I will. Yeah, you're in the other ditch, right? But I will feel badly.
Yeah.
But not to the point of feeling extreme emotion to the situation.
Yeah.
And that's given some major things that have happened, which have contributed to those 3 times.
Yeah.
Actually, 2 of those 3 have happened in the last year, and those have been deaths.
In the last year and a half, yeah.
Yeah, year. Well, 3 actually 3 times. So I think it might be a couple more, but 3 times in the last
4 for you.
Yeah, for me, right?
4.
So, and those are extreme, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think the biggest thing was we had an interview the other day that we talked about it, and like I actually kind of got choked up during the interview, which I like to be that guy that tries to hide emotions,
right?
But like when you see the interview, and it's not going to come out until April, but when you see this interview during this one moment, it got me, right? And we're talking about parents, and it got me. So,
and I'm the opposite. I almost default to that particular, to hiding my emotions, but I don't want to.
I used to.
I actually don't. I don't hide. I don't purposely hide. It just seems to be defaulting in my brain.
And I used to.
Yeah.
I used to hide it like really, really well.
Yeah.
And I think kids changed it for me. I think.
Right.
I think it's the kids that changed it for me.
Right.
and the love that you have for your kids, when we look at like, is love an action? Is love an emotion? How do you define it? I think you define it like how much you feel for your kids.
Right.
Right. And I look at my kids like, if anything ever happened to my kids,
Yeah.
that would wreck somebody, and it would wreck myself.
Right.
And I think that's love. I think that's a real love. I think that's why I got emotional, is because like I look at my parents, the way I look at my kids.
Right.
Right. So anyway, it's kind of a sad topic at the end of the day.
No. So going back,
we've changed it from love to
going back to
sadness.
And you know what? I think sometimes, and
this episode brought to you by
no, but seriously, this is something, and we talked about talking about different points of view.
Yeah.
So men in general, and I'm trying to avoid this, but sometimes I just don't get in the situations where I get the opportunity to share. I'm trying to be more purposeful in relationships, and not just in my marriage or with my kids, but with other guys where I want to open up. And it just seems like after years and years of there's almost seems like there's a group of guys who don't.
Yeah.
Like as a rule of thumb, generally, men don't. And so the opportunities don't exist to happen. So I've been trying purposely to have, and maybe this is why I'm bringing up the conversation. And today happens to be Valentine's Day, so it does seem appropriate, and it is Love Month.
Yep.
And so this is kind of what is love.
Yep.
You know, the old song, "What is love?
Baby don't hurt me."
Pastor David referenced that. I just did this. All I wanted to do is do this in the sanctuary. But yeah, like what is, love from that perspective? Because I'm trying to, and maybe some of the things that I'm saying now are I don't know if they're too deep or whatever, if I'm sharing too much, but I want to be more purposeful in sharing that, right? Being more, I don't want, and again, this is maybe a feminine word, but being more intimate.
Outwardly love.
Yeah.
But you want your love to be more outwardly as opposed to internally. But
intimate's a good word. I think guys should use words like intimate more often, and I should use that.
Do you think that intimate is commercialized towards women?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it's sexualized too.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
Intimacy is in a lot of television and movies saved for the bedroom, but in reality, it has nothing to, or it can. But that's
intimate
not where
means
it is like right. It could be sharing your
intimate is sharing something that is personal to each other.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be
like
you can have an intimate conversation right here.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that we're not wearing any clothing and we're in a bedroom. Yeah. Right?
And we haven't even talked about the different kinds of love going from biblically brotherly love, love between a spouse, and there's so many of them too, right? But I mean, and this weekend, have you seen the movie The Shift?
No.
You should see it.
Okay.
I think it's a Christian production mostly.
Okay.
But it's a very good movie. It's kind of the combination. It's kind of a combination between the Book of Job and the Mandela Effect.
Oh, I've heard of this movie. This was another one of the Angel production movies.
Yeah. So Satan is one of the characters.
I got to see it. Anyway.
Yeah. But it was like hate was basically thinking of somebody. It's thinking of yourself first, selfishness, you first, right?
Yeah.
And I thought during the movies, like, well, love should be the opposite then, right? Thinking of somebody else first over yourself. And for me, I'm an only child,
it's hard.
You get into the habit your entire life, and we talked about this in an interview coming up as well, that when you're so used to something for so long, you just develop those habits, right? And love is thinking of somebody first, whether it's a child, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a parent, thinking about whether it's a friend, thinking about that person first.
Yeah.
And I think that can become from a male perspective and a female perspective. And really all it is putting someone else first. Right. And that's the golden rule. Like, think more highly of somebody else than you, not thinking less of yourself, but thinking someone else, more than you, right?
Yeah.
And that's the biblical definition, and I think it should be the definition of love, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman.
Yeah, I think it's a good discussion.
Yeah,
I don't think men talk about love enough.
Right, I agree.
Maybe we're helping some men, because a lot of men listen to our podcast.
Yeah,
I think 70% of our listenership is male.
I think it's 87.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Even
so,
more.
And that's part of the demographic. It's part of why I kind of wanted to get into it a little bit, right? It's not just sports, not hunting, not fishing, all those things. It's also some of the topics that men should be talking about. And again, I'm at fault for not.
Yeah.
I'm with everybody else. I'm with the 80% that doesn't talk about it enough. Right?
Yeah. So it's a good extra large episode today. I think we talked a lot about sports. We talked a lot about the Olympics, some gun talk, some love talk. Yeah. The Love Gun. That's a song, I think. I don't think it's
not at all
appropriate.
I can write it.
It is a song.
It is?
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
The Love Gun. I'll play it for you afterwards.
It could be the outro.
It's not what you think.
Can it be the outro music?
No, it cannot. It's not appropriate for the outro. So anyway, but I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
As a guest.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
But let's
by the time this episode, next week at this time, I'm gone already.
Yeah, you're gone and I'm getting ready to go.
And you're getting ready to go.
Yeah.
And again, I'm pumped about the interviews. I told you, and you're going to have an easier time than I am, but as much as possible, I want you to post videos from your trip, and I'll try to do the same thing.
Okay. So stay tuned on the Greg and Tim Instagram and Facebook. Yeah. We will be posting different things that are going on. If you haven't subscribed yet, just remember, you can hit that subscribe button. You made it all the way to the end of the episode. We appreciate you watching. We appreciate you listening. If you're on Spotify, click the follow button. Make sure you leave a review. On Apple Music, leave a review.
I really want to emphasize some of the interviews that are coming up when we're gone that we have taken a lot of time to do. They're great interviews. Yeah. And they're very different, each of them. Yeah. And you will enjoy it. So don't just get through all the shorts that we do. Take the time, watch the interviews. They're really, really good. And they, again, span different aspects of life. Yeah. And you're going to really enjoy it. So I really want you to stay tuned when they drop starting next week.
And don't forget, comment below. Yeah. I love the comments. Yeah. They're my love language. And I appreciate everybody that comments. We have a lot of great people that have made a lot of great comments, and I want to finish the show with one other thing. Okay. I was going to end the episode in a certain way. I haven't really talked to you about it, but anyway.
What was that?
I know. It's hard for me. I get emotional. Anyway, speaking of comments, we had one commenter that used to leave a lot of comments for us. Oh, yeah. This is the hard part. So do you want to do it?
Yeah. So this show is dedicated to Wade Argo.
Yep.
Who sadly passed away on Sunday.
Yep.
And he was very active in leaving comments and critiques and things that we could do better and things that we were doing very good. And so, yeah, we would like to dedicate this to him.
Awesome.